Hello and welcome to this Edexcel A-level Geography essay planning series. This is the third one in the series, and this one is looking at interpreting questions and planning, and this will be using an actual exam question to talk you through all the different stages we've looked at in the first two videos. So first of all, remember that this essay planning and writing is a skill that you've got to develop. You've got to show an understanding of command words, key terms, the focus and restrictions. And for these first essays, it is a good idea that you use notes and textbooks along with the specification to help you, because understanding takes a long time. And I want you to practice on your essay skills without having to worry about the knowledge and understanding off the top of your head. And it's also important to recognise what are the examiners looking for in the mark scheme and what's expected of you. So the question that we're going to be looking at is this one. Assess the importance of governance in the successful management of tectonic mega disasters. Now this is a 12 marker from paper 1. Now what I'd like you to do first of all, please, is could you highlight and understand the command word, the focus and the restrictions in this question, along with what could be any unwritten parts of the question? What other things do you think they may want you to talk about while doing this? So pause the video and have a go at that now. Okay, so let's have a look then. So did you get the correct answers in these? So the command word, assess the importance. When reading the questions, you've got to read the question in its entirety, before you start to pick it apart, because obviously, or sometimes it's not just the command word, it's the words that follow it as well that give you a clue as to what you've got to do. You need some flexibility. There isn't a one rule fits all. You've got to apply some judgment when you're evaluating or looking at the questions. The focus, well, there's two main elements there. There's governance and there's also management. And the restriction is tectonic mega disasters. Apologies for the spelling error there, which I've just noticed. So those are the key things. Now, also we have to think about, okay, well, if we're talking about governance and management, what other things could we talk about that would relate to the successful management? Well, it could be things like the magnitude, the scale, the hazard profile of each of the disasters, or it could be levels of development. Now obviously there are other factors as well. So we need to think about what other information we need to give to show that we've got an understanding and we can make these geographical connections. So if we have a look then, here is the specification. Have a look to see where the key terms from the question appear. And you can pause this video now and then play it when you're ready. So the main parts in the question, we can see we have governance down here and we have tectonic mega disasters. So those are the two main parts of it. But we also have to consider the fact that we've got the management style, which can be seen in yellow here, and we're talking about all of these different areas that we could have, so modifying the event, the vulnerability, the loss. But also we know that when we're looking at the success of management, we can also talk about the inequality and hazard profiles. So this question is getting you to try and link all of these different bits of areas and just pick out those areas that you think are the most important. So you can see how important it is to have a look at the specification, because this will give you a guide as to the kind of things that you can be talking about in your essay. So it is really important that you're following all of these steps, because it will take a lot of time to build good practices. But with repeated revision and practice, your knowledge and understanding will be at the stage where you can recall the information you need and you can take a shortcut with these different stages. So, summarizing the information from the specification, we can see that I've just made a quick note of it here. We can see that when we talk about the governance, We've got the different elements, economic, political, administrative. We've got the different management strategies, and then we've got what is a mega disaster. You can also see in this top section is I've tried to reword the question just to make it that little bit easier. So we know this is the information that we're trying to include, and we have to work out, we probably won't be able to include all of this, but what is the key information that we're going to need within our answers. So we're going to have a look at how we can plan your essay. Now these plans, they are complex, they are quite detailed, and they will take a lot of time initially, but this is to help you get the key information that you're going to need. And this is a really important step when you're initially starting writing geographical essays. So what we have, this is one possible pro forma or form that you could use. So we can write down what the question is, the command word, the topic, the restrictions, links to the specification, the connectives you need to be using because it's an assessed question, and then possible ideas for each of the different paragraphs that you'll be talking about. Now, having a look then, so this is one that I've started for you already. So we can see that we've got the key information on this top section here. We know that the introduction, we need to talk about what the key terms are. And then I've started to complete some of the information for one of the possible paragraphs that you can see. Okay, so when modifying the vulnerability, we've talked about strong governance. So the explanation here and these areas here, although it's positive or strengths or opportunities, this is the points that will back up your answer. So saying that yes, governance is important in successful management, whereas this would be the counterpoint or the implicit judgment showing, however, there are other factors which will have an impact. Here, we've got some of the different ideas we could use for case studies in there. And then here we have the kind of assessment command words and connectives that we could use. So what I'd like you to do now then is again pause the video and have a go, and can you complete these other two sections? Think about the case studies, think about the connectives, and trying to write those in. Okay, pause the video, have a go now. Now, I'm not saying that you would have exactly the same as this, but this gives you a kind of idea of the way that you could use these to fill in. Now again, if you're really struggling with essays, it is important that you do undertake these different stages in it. It really will help in the long run. If you try and take shortcuts now, it's like the old saying that you can't run before you can walk. And this is your walking in your essay planning. So a nice bit of cliche for you there. Also notice that I've also, looking at that information, just put in a little bit of a conclusion, just so I know what I'm going to be writing. So, going back to what we saw in the earlier sessions of these videos, looking at how we can put that information into a structure. So we have the introduction, rewording the question, and then in the paragraphs themselves, we find we need an explicit judgment, we need the evidence and explanation, we need an implicit judgment, therefore a counterpoint, using terms such as however, but, and then we need to link it directly back to the question with explicit judgment again. We then have paragraph 2, and we could have a paragraph 3 here, but that one only needs to be shorter just to introduce some of the other areas to show a greater range. And then of course we need the conclusion in there. So here again is the quick mark scheme. What are we trying to do? Demonstrate accurate and relevant geographical knowledge, AO1. Yeah, this would come mainly from the introduction and the key terms that you use. You're making logical and relevant connections and relationships between the different factors, between governance, magnitude, etc. that you're producing a full and coherent interpretation that is relevant and supported by evidence. You've got case studies in there. You've explained them clearly and it makes sense. And also you're making judgments throughout, not just at the conclusion. And again, to summarize that, this is the mark schemes that you'll be getting when you're fed back the essays. And you can see these are the different areas that we need to be looking at. And again, if it helps you when you're doing these, go back and think about the different connectives you can be using. Yeah, so these are the connectives that help to reach those different areas of the mark scheme. From getting the correct information, here's the evidence, this is making the links, this is part of your judgment, but it's also about making the links and relationships. Here's your evidence again, and this is your explanation, a coherent and full approach. And then here is your judgment at the end. So each of these needs to appear in each of the paragraphs. So let's have a look at this again, and we'll start going through and I'll show you one way that you could write this up. So just quickly having a look at the information that we need to include there. So here is a possible introduction. Have a quick read through it, pause it if you need to. Now what is important is that we have a look at the mark schemes. Have a read through and then think about what level would you be awarding an introduction like this. Is this a level 1, level 2 or level 3? So pause it and make a judgment. Now if you look at it, here it shows understanding of the question. It shows the key terms are defined and it describes the key points discussed in the essay. So this would be a pretty good introduction, which would help to give the examiner thinking, oh, this is a level 2, level 3 piece of work. Next up, we look at the first paragraph. Again, what I'd like you to do is to read through this. And then think about, okay, well, what level would you give it for each of these? And if you want to, you could print this out or you could color code it. So where you can see knowledge, have that in black, explanations in blue, evidence and judgments in red. So pause the video and have a go at reading through and highlighting those key bits. So this is my take on it. Now, you could argue some bits are evidence, some bits are explanations, etc. But what you can see in this one paragraph, there are many elements of knowledge, there are connectives which show our explanations, there is evidence in there as well, and there are clear judgments all the way through, from explicit, such as these two and the one at the end, and the howevers, which would show that we're implicitly judging and assessing this as well. So it's really good with this to see the use of key connectives and sentence starters can help us to achieve these higher levels. Now, what I've done is started 2 more paragraphs. What I'd like you to do, again, is to pause these and you can have a go at trying to complete the rest of the essay. So pause the video and have a go at that now. So again, what we're looking at, when we look at the essay in its entirety, we saw how we broke down one of the paragraphs, but don't forget to make a complete answer. We've also got to look at the conclusion, which if you filled that in would be solid. The structure and balance, well, we've got lots of range of ideas in there. We've got depth and we've also got a number of different key factors in there. And again, important to remember spelling, punctuation and grammar. And here we have the mark scheme from the exam board. Now you can see these are very, very difficult to interpret. They don't follow, they're not a perfect essay. It's just the kind of things that you could be saying in there. So that's it for this video. I hope you found it useful into the sort of first stages of essay planning. Thanks very much for watching. See you again soon. Take care. Bye.